I was sleeping under a bridge when the lawyer found me, and the first words out of his mouth were, "Your father, the mayor, wants to see you now." I didn't believe him. Why would I? I'd been an orphan my entire life. My name is Chen, and at 23 years old, I'd been homeless in Houston for 6 months. Before that, I'd aged out of the foster care system at 18 with nothing but a garbage bag of clothes and a social worker's phone number I'd never called. I'd tried to make it work, really, I had. I worked at a diner, rented a room in a house with 5 other people, saved every penny I could. But Houston is expensive, and when the diner closed down, I couldn't make rent. 1 month became 2. 2 months became eviction. The streets swallow you faster than you'd think. I used to have dreams. Big ones. I wanted to be a teacher, wanted to help kids like me who had nobody. I'd gotten a partial scholarship to community college and everything. But when you're trying to figure out where you'll sleep and whether you'll eat, dreams become luxuries you can't afford. You stop thinking about the future. You stop thinking about anything except the next hour, the next meal, the next safe place to close your eyes. The bridge near downtown became my spot. It wasn't great, nowhere on the streets is, but it was relatively quiet, and there was a convenience store nearby where the owner, Mr. Kim, would sometimes give me day-old sandwiches. He never said much, just handed them to me with a nod. Those small kindnesses kept me human when everything else tried to make me invisible. I'd wake up before dawn, fold my cardboard carefully, hide my backpack in the bushes, and walk to the public library as soon as it opened. That's where I'd spend my days. Reading. Applying for jobs on their computers. Washing up in their bathroom. Pretending I was still a person with a purpose. The librarians knew. They had to know. But they never kicked me out, and I loved them for it. At night, I'd return to my bridge, unroll my cardboard, and try not to think about how I'd ended up here. Try not to think about all the foster homes, all the families who'd taken me in for the checks and never for me. Try not to think about my mother, whoever she was, who'd left me at a fire station wrapped in a yellow blanket when I was 3 days old. I had no family. No history. No one in the world who shared my blood. That's what I believed for 23 years. The lawyer showed up on a Tuesday morning in October. I was gathering my things, preparing for another day at the library, when I noticed him standing at the edge of the bridge. He was completely out of place, expensive suit, leather briefcase, shoes so shiny they reflected the sunrise. He was looking right at me. My first instinct was to run. Men in suits didn't come to homeless camps with good news. But he called out, "Chen? I need to speak with you. It's important." I froze. Nobody knew my name down here. I was just another invisible girl with dirty clothes and tangled hair. "How do you know my name?" My voice came out rougher than I intended, defensive. He took a few careful steps closer, like I was a wild animal that might bolt. "My name is Robert Harrison. I'm an attorney representing the mayor of Houston. I've been looking for you for 3 weeks." The mayor. I almost laughed. Wrong person. I don't know any mayors. "Your father sent me," he said. Those 3 words hit me like a physical blow. Your father. I'd spent my entire life believing I had no father, that whoever he was had abandoned me just like my mother. The social workers had told me there was no father listed on my birth certificate. No family had ever come forward. I was alone in the world, that was my origin story, my fundamental truth. "I don't have a father," I said, but my voice shook. Robert opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. "May I show you something?" I should have walked away. I should have known this was some kind of scam, some cruel joke the universe was playing on the homeless girl who had nothing left to lose. But I couldn't move. Some desperate, childish part of me that I thought I'd buried years ago whispered, "What if it's real?" He held out a photograph. I took it with trembling hands. It was a picture of a young Asian woman, maybe 19 or 20, with long black hair and a bright smile. She was standing in front of a house, wearing a sundress, looking happy and alive. I stared at her face, searching for something familiar, some echo of my own features in hers. "Who is this?" I whispered. Her name was Lily Chen. "She was your mother." Was. Past tense. I'd always known she was probably dead or gone, but hearing it confirmed still hurt. "She worked as a housekeeper for the Morrison family 24 years ago," Robert continued, his voice gentle now. "David Morrison was engaged at the time, preparing to run for city council. He and Lily had an affair. It lasted about 6 months. When she got pregnant, she told him. He panicked. He was young, ambitious, terrified of scandal. He offered her money to disappear, to have an abortion. She refused." My chest tightened. I knew how the story ended, with me wrapped in a yellow blanket, left at a fire station in the middle of the night. "Lily kept you for 3 days," Robert said. "According to the letters she wrote, she loved you desperately. But she was undocumented, alone, and terrified. David had made it clear he wanted nothing to do with either of you. She thought you'd have a better chance in the system than you would with her. So she left you somewhere safe and disappeared." I felt tears burning in my eyes. All my life, I'd hated her. Hated the woman who'd given birth to me and thrown me away like trash. But standing there, listening to this stranger tell me she'd loved me, that she'd been alone and afraid and trying to do what was best, it shattered something inside me. "What happened to her?" I managed to ask. Robert's expression darkened. "She died 6 months later. Hit by a car. It was ruled an accident, but..." He hesitated. "The investigation was minimal. She was undocumented. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. The story of my life, really. Nobody cared about Lily Chen. Nobody cared about the baby she left behind. We were invisible people in a world that only valued those who already had value." "Why now?" I asked, anger rising in my throat. "It's been 23 years. Why does he suddenly want to see me now?" Robert closed the folder carefully. "David Morrison is dying. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He has maybe 3 months left. He wants to meet you before he goes." I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound that didn't feel like it came from me. "He's dying, so now I matter? Now I'm worth acknowledging?" "He's not proud of what he did," Robert said quietly. "He knows he failed you and your mother. He spent the last month trying to find you. When he discovered you were, in your current situation, he insisted I locate you immediately." Current situation. Nice way to say homeless and desperate. "He wants to meet you today," Robert continued. "Right now, if you're willing. He's at his home. It's private, no press, no cameras, just him. He has things he wants to tell you. Things he wants to give you." I looked down at myself, the stained jeans I'd been wearing for 2 weeks, the oversized jacket covering a t-shirt with holes in it, the shoes with soles so worn I could feel every crack in the pavement. This was what the mayor's daughter looked like. This was what his abandonment had created. "And if I say no?" I asked. Robert met my eyes. "Then I'll leave you alone." "But Maya," I think you should hear what he has to say. Not for his sake, for yours. I thought about walking away. Part of me wanted to tell this lawyer and the mayor to go to hell, that I'd survived 23 years without them and I didn't need them now. But another part of me, that desperate, hungry part that had never stopped wondering why I wasn't wanted, needed to know. Needed to look my father in the eyes and hear him explain how he could throw away his own child. Fine, I said. Take me to him. Robert's car was the nicest thing I'd ever been inside. Leather seats. Climate control. The smell of new car and expensive cologne. I felt filthy sitting there, like I was contaminating it with my presence. I kept my hands folded in my lap, afraid to touch anything. We drove through Houston in silence. I watched the city pass by through tinted windows, the downtown skyline, the nice neighborhoods with their manicured lawns, the world I'd never been part of. Somewhere in this city was the fire station where I'd been abandoned. Somewhere were all the foster homes I'd bounced through. Somewhere was my mother's grave, probably unmarked, probably forgotten. We pulled up to a house in River Oaks, one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Houston. It was massive, white columns, sprawling lawn, the kind of place you see in magazines. A place where a mayor would live. A place where his legitimate family would live. He has a wife, I said suddenly. Kids. Robert nodded. 2 sons. They're both adults now. They don't know about you yet. He wanted to meet you first. Of course they didn't know. I was the shameful secret, the mistake that had to be hidden away. Robert led me to the front door, but we didn't go through it. Instead, he took me around to the side of the house, to a separate entrance. Even now, even dying, the mayor couldn't let me through the front door like a real daughter. We entered what looked like a private study or library. Dark wood, leather furniture, shelves filled with books. And there, in a wheelchair by the window, was David Morrison. I'd seen his face before, of course. You can't live in Houston without seeing the mayor's face on billboards, in newspapers, on TV. But seeing him in person was different. He was thin, cancer thin, with gray skin and hollow eyes. But I could see it. The shape of my face in his. The same nose. The same chin. I looked like him. I looked like the man who'd thrown me away. Maya, he said, and his voice was rough, breaking on my name. You came. I stood there, frozen, unsure what I was supposed to say or do. Should I be angry? Forgiving? Indifferent? I felt all of it at once and none of it at all. I'll give you privacy, Robert said, and left the room. David gestured to a chair near him. Please. Sit. I sat, but perched on the edge, ready to run. I don't know where to start, he said, and I could hear the emotion in his voice. I've rehearsed this conversation 1,000 times, but now that you're here, all my words feel inadequate. Why don't you start with why you abandoned me? I said coldly. That seems like a good place. He flinched but didn't look away. You're right to hate me. I hate myself. I was 28 years old, running for city council, engaged to be married. When Lily told me she was pregnant, I panicked. I was selfish and cowardly. I told myself I'd ruin 3 lives if the truth came out, mine, my fiancé's, and yours. I convinced myself you'd be better off without me. You convinced yourself wrong, I said, and my voice was shaking now. Do you want to know what my life has been like? I've been in 11 foster homes. 11. Some were okay. Some were terrible. I've been hit, neglected, and forgotten more times than I can count. I aged out of the system with nothing. No family, no support, no safety net. 6 months ago, I became homeless. I sleep under a bridge. I eat from dumpsters. I haven't felt safe or wanted or loved since I was born. Tears were streaming down his face now, but I didn't care. I wanted him to hurt. I wanted him to feel a fraction of what I'd felt. When Lily died, he continued, his voice breaking, I told myself it was over. That you were in the system and would be fine. I buried my guilt and moved on with my life. I got married. Had 2 sons. Built my career. I became mayor. And I never looked back because looking back meant facing what I'd done. So what changed? I demanded. Why now? Because you're dying and want to clear your conscience before you meet your maker? Yes, he said simply. That's exactly why. The cancer diagnosis forced me to confront my life, my choices, my regrets. And you were my greatest regret, Maya. Not knowing you, not raising you, not being your father. I spent the last month searching for you. When I found out you were homeless, his voice broke completely. My daughter. My child. Sleeping on the streets while I lived in this mansion. The guilt nearly killed me faster than the cancer. I wanted to stay angry. I wanted to hate him. But seeing him broken and dying, I felt something shifting inside me, not forgiveness, but something more complicated. A recognition that he was human, flawed, and drowning in regret just like I'd been drowning in loneliness. I can't undo what I did, he said. I can't give you back your childhood or erase your pain. But I can try to give you a future. I've set up a trust fund in your name. $3 million. It's yours, no strings attached. I've also enrolled you at the University of Houston with full tuition paid for whatever degree you want to pursue. And I've arranged for an apartment, a real home, that's in your name. $3 million. A college education. A home. The words didn't feel real. They felt like a fantasy, a dream I'd had 1,000 times and always woken up from. Why? I whispered. It doesn't change anything. No, it doesn't, he agreed. But maybe it gives you the life you should have always had. Maybe it means Lily's sacrifice wasn't for nothing. She wanted you to have a better life. Let me finally give you that. I sat there, silent, overwhelmed. Part of me wanted to throw his money back in his face, to tell him he couldn't buy redemption. But another part, the practical, surviving part, knew that this money meant freedom. It meant never sleeping on the streets again. It meant college, a career, a future. It meant everything I'd ever wanted and never thought I could have. I want to know about her, I said finally. My mother. I want to know everything. David nodded and wheeled himself over to a desk. He pulled out a box and brought it back to me. These are Lily's letters. She wrote to me after she left you. I never responded, but I kept them. She talked about you, about her hopes for you, about how much she loved you. I think she'd want you to have them. I took the box with trembling hands. Inside were dozens of letters in handwriting I'd never seen but somehow recognized as belonging to me. My mother's words. My mother's thoughts. Proof that I had been loved, even if only for 3 days. There's something else, David said quietly. Something I need to tell you before you decide anything. I looked up at him, and there was something in his expression that made my stomach drop. Lily's death wasn't an accident, he said. I've suspected it for years, but I only recently confirmed it. She was killed, Maya. Murdered. The room tilted. What? When I started searching for you, I also started investigating what really happened to her. I hired private investigators, tracked down witnesses. Lily was killed by someone who wanted to keep my secret buried. Someone who knew that if she ever came forward, my political career would be destroyed. Who? I demanded, my voice barely a whisper. David's face hardened. My wife. Catherine. The world stopped. His wife. The woman who'd been by his side all these years. The mother of his legitimate sons. The mayor's wife who smiled in photographs and attended charity events and played the role of perfect political spouse. Catherine found out about the affair before we got married, David explained, his voice hollow. She was furious, but she loved me, or loved the life I could give her. She made me promise to cut all ties with Lily and never acknowledge you. I agreed. But 6 months after you were born, Lily sent me a letter saying she'd changed her mind, that she wanted to tell me where you were, that she wanted child support and wanted me to be part of your life. Catherine intercepted that letter. And she killed her, I finished, numb. She hired someone to make it look like an accident. It was easy. Lily was undocumented, vulnerable, invisible. No one investigated too closely. No one cared. He looked at me with eyes full of pain. I didn't know. I swear to you, Maya, I didn't know until 3 weeks ago. If I'd known. You'd have done nothing, I said bitterly. Just like you did nothing when she was alive. He didn't deny it. He couldn't. I've reported everything to the police, he continued. Catherine is under investigation. The evidence is circumstantial, but strong. She'll likely be arrested within days. Our sons are going to find out about you, about what their mother did, about what I did. My legacy will be destroyed. But I don't care anymore. The truth needs to come out. I sat there, trying to process everything. My mother had been murdered. Murdered for the crime of loving me, of wanting her daughter to know her father. And the woman who'd ordered her death had lived freely for 23 years, playing the role of upstanding citizen while my mother lay in an unmarked grave. I want justice for her, I said, and my voice was steel. I want everyone to know what happened. I want Catherine to pay. She will, David promised. I'll make sure of it. It's the least I can do. We sat in silence for a long moment. The study felt heavy with ghosts, my mother's ghost, the ghost of the daughter David had abandoned, the ghost of the man he might have been if he'd made different choices. I don't forgive you, I said finally. I don't know if I ever will. But I'll take the money. I'll go to school. I'll build the life my mother wanted for me. Not because you've earned redemption, but because I deserve it. You do, he said softly. You deserve everything, Maya. I'm so sorry I couldn't give it to you sooner. I want one more thing, I added. I want to know where my mother is buried. David's expression crumbled. She's in a pauper's cemetery outside the city. No headstone, no marker. Just a plot number in a record book. Then I want a proper burial, I said. With a headstone. With her name on it. Lily Chen. Beloved mother. I want people to know she existed. I want her to be remembered. Consider it done, David said immediately. And Maya, would you come back? Visit me, while I still have time? I don't expect you to think of me as a father. I haven't earned that. But I'd like to know you, even just a little. I should have said no. He didn't deserve my time or presence. But looking at this dying man who looked like me, who carried the same genetic code, who was the only connection I had to my mother and my history, I found myself nodding. Maybe, I said. If I can. Robert drove me away from that house with a contract in my hands, a bank account in my name, and my mother's letters clutched to my chest. As we pulled onto the street, I looked back and saw David watching from his window, a ghost already, fading into the past. 3 weeks later, Catherine Morrison was arrested for conspiracy to commit murder. The news exploded across Houston, the mayor's wife, a killer. The mayor's secret daughter, a homeless girl. The political dynasty, built on lies and murder. David died 2 months after our meeting. I went to his funeral, standing in the back, watching his legitimate sons grieve a father they thought they knew. They looked at me with confusion and anger, these brothers I'd never wanted. I didn't approach them. I wasn't there for them. I was there for the man who'd made terrible choices but tried, in the end, to give me something. I used the money to get a small apartment near the university. Nothing fancy, I couldn't bring myself to live extravagantly, not yet. I enrolled in classes. Education degree, just like I'd always dreamed. I kept working at a coffee shop on campus, not because I needed the money, but because I needed to remember. Needed to stay grounded. I buried my mother properly. Lily Chen's new headstone read, "Beloved Mother and Dreamer. May you rest in the peace you never found in life." I visit her every Sunday, bringing flowers and telling her about my week, about the classes I'm taking, about the future I'm building. Catherine Morrison is awaiting trial. I'll testify when the time comes. For my mother. Sometimes I think about alternate realities, what my life would have been like if David had made different choices, if he'd acknowledged me from the start, if my mother had lived. But I can't live in those alternate realities. I can only live in this one, the one where I survived. I was a homeless orphan sleeping under a bridge in Houston. Then a lawyer said my father, the mayor, wanted to see me. And my entire life changed in ways I never could have imagined. But here's what I learned, the change wasn't about the money or the acknowledgement or even the justice. The change was about learning that I had been loved. That my mother had loved me enough to give me up, hoping I'd have a better life. That even in her death, she'd left traces of herself for me to find. I carry her letters everywhere now. They're worn and soft from reading. In them, she tells me about her dreams for me. How she hoped I'd be strong. How she hoped I'd be kind. How she hoped I'd never feel as alone as she did. I'm building the life she dreamed for me. I'm becoming the woman she wanted me to be. And every day, I wake up in my apartment, my home, and I think about the girl under the bridge who believed she had no one. I think about how wrong she was. She had a mother who loved her desperately. She had a father who, too late, tried to make amends. She had people like Mr. Kim and the librarians who showed her kindness when she needed it most. She was never as alone as she thought. Neither am I. My name is Maya Chen. I'm 24 years old. I'm a college student studying to be a teacher. I have a home, a future, and a story that nearly broke me but ultimately made me stronger. I am my mother's daughter. I am a survivor. And I am finally free.